Commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his ship and looked down at the blue and green planet below. His 4 eyes scanned the surface with mild interest. Another routine training mission to the world the Galactic Council called Earth, the third planet from a yellow star in what the natives called the solar system. He had done this job for 20 cycles now. Take young alien soldiers to this harsh world. Drop them in different places. Let them learn to survive and fight. Pick them up when the training was done. It was simple work, but necessary. The soft younglings from civilized worlds needed to understand what real danger felt like. Earth was perfect for this. The planet was full of threats. Wild storms that could tear apart buildings, earthquakes that split the ground open, floods that washed away everything in their path, deadly creatures that hunted in packs, and scattered across the surface were the humans. The humans were the best part of the training. They looked harmless enough with their soft skin and small teeth. No claws, no natural armor, no poison. But they were tough in their own way. They could run for long distances. They could climb and swim. They could make simple tools from rocks and sticks. Most importantly, they fought back when cornered. This made them perfect training targets. The young soldiers could practice hunting something that would not just roll over and die. The humans would run and hide. They would try to trick their hunters. Sometimes they would even fight back with their crude weapons. It taught the cadets important lessons about tracking, patience, and combat. Zethkar's current group was from the Hegemony Core worlds. 12 young soldiers who had never seen real violence. They came from planets where everything was clean and safe, where food appeared when you wanted it, where dangerous animals lived only in protected parks. These soft creatures needed to learn what their ancestors knew about survival. "Commander," his aide called from across the bridge. "The insertion pods are ready," Zethkar nodded. Each pod would drop 1 cadet in a different location on the planet. Some would land in the frozen northern regions, others in the hot deserts. A few would find themselves in the thick forests where the humans liked to hide. The cadets had basic survival gear and simple weapons, nothing too advanced. The point was to make them work for their victories. "Begin the drop," he ordered. The first pod shot down toward the planet. Inside was Cadet Vexstar, a young Chronon whose people ruled 3-star systems. His family owned mining operations on a dozen worlds. He had never been hungry or cold or afraid. Today that would change. The pod hit the ground in what the humans called Canada. Snow covered everything as far as the eye could see. The temperature was well below freezing. Vexstar stepped out of his pod wearing basic thermal gear and carrying a plasma rifle with limited charges. His training said to find shelter first, then hunt for food and water. He did not know that hidden cameras had been watching the landing. Deep underground, in a bunker built from salvaged alien metal, humans were tracking every move he made. The second pod landed in Australia. Cadet Nixara emerged into blazing heat and red dirt that stretched to the horizon. Her people came from a water world where the temperature never changed. She had read about deserts but never experienced one. The heat hit her like a physical blow. She began walking toward what looked like hills in the distance. Her scanner showed traces of water in that direction. What it did not show were the human observers who had been waiting for this drop. They knew the aliens always sent their young ones to the same types of places. The humans had learned to be ready. Pod after pod fell from the sky. Each cadet found themselves alone in a hostile environment, just as the training was designed. But something was different this time. The humans were different. In the deep forests of the Amazon, Cadet Corvin started tracking what his scanner said was a group of humans. His people were natural hunters who had conquered their world by being faster and stronger than everything else. He expected to find primitive creatures cowering in fear. Instead, he walked into a trap. The net that fell on him was made from salvaged ship cable, strong enough to hold a battle mech. The humans who surrounded him carried weapons he recognized: plasma rifles, energy blades, combat armor pieces, all taken from previous training missions over the years, but the biggest shock was their eyes. These were not the eyes of frightened animals. These were the eyes of soldiers who had been waiting for this moment. On the African plains, Cadet Jextar was hunting a human settlement when the ground exploded beneath his feet. Not from some primitive bomb, but from a carefully placed demolition charge, the same type his own engineers used to clear asteroids. As he fell into the pit, more humans appeared above him. They looked down at him with calm expressions. One of them spoke in perfect hegemony standard. "Welcome to Earth, Cadet. Your training starts now." In the Arctic, Vextar had found what he thought was an abandoned human shelter. He approached carefully. "Weapon ready?" The shelter looked primitive from the outside. Rough wood and animal skins. But when he got closer, he could see metal underneath. Ship, hull metal. The kind that could stop plasma fire. The door opened before he could reach it. Human female stepped out. She was wearing pieces of alien combat armor that had been modified to fit her smaller frame. In her hands was a weapon he had never seen before. It looked like it had been built from parts of a dozen different alien technologies. "You took a wrong turn, kid," she said in his own language. "Earth is closed for training." All across the planet, the same scene was playing out. Cadets who expected to hunt helpless primitives were finding themselves facing organized resistance. Humans who knew their technology, humans who had prepared for this day, humans who were no longer willing to be anyone's training exercise, back. On his ship, Zethkar was starting to worry. He should have received at least one check-in signal by now. The cadets were supposed to report their status every few hours. But his communications board was silent. He tried to contact the pods directly. No response. He tried to reach the emergency beacons each cadet carried. Nothing. It was as if 12 trained soldiers had simply vanished into the planet's surface. This had never happened before. In 20 cycles of running these missions, he had never lost contact with an entire group. Individual cadets might have accidents, equipment might fail, but not everyone at once. "Sir," his aide called out, "I'm detecting energy signatures from the surface." Zethkar turned to look at the tactical display. Bright spots were appearing across the planet. Energy weapons firing, explosions, signs of combat. But according to his records, the humans had no energy weapons. They barely had gunpowder and metal tools. "Are the cadets fighting each other?" he wondered aloud. "No, sir," the aide replied, his voice troubled. "The signatures are too varied. Different weapon types, some I don't even recognize." Fear crept into Zethkar's mind. Real fear, not the controlled danger of a training exercise. Something was very wrong on the planet below. The humans were supposed to be harmless, primitive, easy prey for his cadets to hunt and learn from, but the energy readings told a different story. Someone down there had advanced weapons. Someone knew how to use them. And his cadets were in the middle of it. He opened a communication channel to Galactic Command. "This is Training Vessel 7. We have a situation on Earth, requesting immediate backup." The response came back quickly. "Training Vessel 7, clarify your situation. Earth is a Class 9 primitive world. What backup could you possibly need?" Zethkar looked at his tactical display again. More explosions. More weapon signatures. And still no word from any of his cadets. "Command," he said slowly, "I think we may have been wrong about Earth." Dr. Sarah Chun stood in the underground command center and watched the screens that showed alien landing sites across the planet. Each screen displayed a different location where the invaders had dropped their young soldiers. But this time, the humans were ready. The command center had been built over 15 years using pieces from crashed alien ships. The walls were lined with salvaged metal that could stop energy weapons. The computers were a mix of human technology and alien systems that her team had learned to operate. Everything had been planned for this day. Sarah had been only 12 years old when she first saw aliens hunt her family. They had been camping in the mountains when the alien cadets found them. Her parents had tried to run, but the aliens were faster. They had better weapons. They treated the hunt like a game. Sarah had hidden in a cave and watched everything. She saw how the aliens moved, how their weapons worked, how they communicated with each other. When they left, she crawled out and found pieces of their equipment scattered on the ground. That was when she decided that humans would never be helpless again. Now she was 37 and held degrees in engineering and alien technology. She led a network of humans who had been preparing for years. They called themselves the Resistance, but they were much more than that. They were teachers, scientists, soldiers, and survivors all working together. Team 7 has secured their target, reported Marcus Torres from his station. He was a former military officer who had trained other humans to use alien weapons. Cadet is alive but contained. Team 3 reporting success, came another voice over the radio. Another one down, Sarah smiled. The aliens thought they were dropping their cadets on a primitive world full of easy targets. They had no idea that every landing site had been watched and prepared. The humans had learned to predict where the aliens would land. They knew the patterns. Dr. Chun, called Anna Kim from the communications station. I'm picking up confused chatter from the alien ship in orbit. They're trying to contact their cadets. Let them wonder, Sarah replied. How many teams have reported in? 10 out of 12, Anna answered. Teams 4 and 9 are still in progress. On the main screen, Sarah could see feeds from hidden cameras around the world. In the Australian desert, Team 4 was closing in on their target. The alien cadet had been walking toward what she thought was a water source. Instead, she was walking into a carefully prepared ambush. The team leader was Jake Morrison, a former park ranger who knew the desert better than anyone. He had been 11 when aliens killed his sister during a training hunt. Now he used that knowledge to turn the hunters into the hunted. Jake's team surrounded the alien without being seen. They wore camouflage that included pieces of alien stealth technology. They moved with the patience of people who had spent years learning to be invisible. When they struck, it was fast and clean. The alien cadet found herself surrounded by humans carrying weapons she recognized. Plasma rifles that had been taken from previous hunts, energy shields that her own people had built, communication devices that could jam her calls for help. Your people made a mistake, Jake told her in her own language. They taught us to be better. Team 9 was working in the forests of Russia. Their target was a cadet who came from a race of natural climbers. The alien was moving through the trees like he owned them. He thought the height would keep him safe from the primitive ground dwellers below. He was wrong. The team leader was Yuki Tanaka, a woman who had studied alien movement patterns for 10 years. She knew this species liked to stay in the trees, so she had prepared accordingly. The net that caught the alien was suspended between the trees at exactly the right height. Made from alien cable, it was strong enough to hold him no matter how much he struggled. When he looked down, he saw humans climbing toward him with equipment that should not exist on this world. YUKI reached him first. She wore climbing gear that combined human engineering with alien materials. Her weapon was a modified energy rifle that could stun instead of kill. Surprised? She asked in perfect alien standard. You shouldn't be. We've been taking notes. Back. In the command center, Sarah watched as the last two teams completed their missions. 12 alien cadets had landed on Earth expecting to hunt helpless humans. Instead, 12 alien cadets were now prisoners of people they had thought were primitive animals, but the real victory was not in capturing the invaders. The real victory was in what the humans had learned over the years. Every alien hunt had been observed. Every piece of technology had been studied. Every weakness had been noted and remembered. The aliens thought they were training their young soldiers. Really, they had been training their enemies. Sarah's team included people from every field of human knowledge. Engineers who had reverse-engineered alien power sources. Doctors who had studied alien biology from samples left behind. Linguists who had learned a dozen alien languages from intercepted communications. Most importantly, they had military strategists who understood something the aliens did not. The aliens fought like civilized beings who followed rules. Humans fought like survivors who would do anything to win. Dr. Chun, Anna called from her station. The alien ship is trying to scan the surface. They're looking for their cadets. Let them scan, Sarah replied. They won't find anything we don't want them to find. The scanning technology was sophisticated, but the humans had learned to hide from it. Their underground bases were shielded with alien materials. Their people carried scramblers that confused alien sensors. Their weapons were stored in containers that blocked detection. The aliens had spent decades dropping cadets on Earth, without ever learning that humans were watching everything. They had never bothered to study their prey closely. To them, humans were just another form of dangerous wildlife. That arrogance was about to cost them dearly. "Prepare Phase 2, Sarah ordered. Phase 2 was the real test. The aliens would eventually send down rescue teams when their cadets failed to report. Those teams would be better armed and more experienced than the young cadets. But they would also be walking into a trap that had been 15 years in the making around the world. Human teams began moving to new positions. They carried weapons that had been built from alien technology but improved with human innovation. They wore armor that combined the best of both worlds. Most importantly, they carried the rage of people who had been hunted for sport for two. Long Dot in the Amazon, the team holding Cadet Corvin moved him to a prepared position. The young alien had been bragging about his people's hunting skills when they captured him. Now he was learning what it felt like to be prey. "Your ship will come looking for you," team leader Elena Rodriguez told him. "When they do, they'll find more than they bargained for." Elena had lost her entire village to an alien training hunt when she was 16. She had spent 20 years learning everything she could about alien technology and tactics. Now she commanded one of the most effective resistance cells on the planet Dot in the Arctic. The team with Cadet Vexstar was preparing defensive positions. The alien had been shocked to discover that humans could survive in the frozen wasteland. He had been even more shocked to learn that they could fight back. "My people will come for me," he told his captors. "They will destroy this entire region." "Let them try," replied Maria Santos, the team leader. "We've been waiting for them." Maria was a former Special Forces soldier who had dedicated her life to preparing for this moment. Her team included engineers, scouts, and fighters who knew every inch of the Arctic terrain. They had spent years building hidden bases and weapon caches, the aliens thought. Earth was a training world where their young could learn to be warriors. They had never realized that every hunt was training humans to be something much more dangerous. Sarah looked at the global map on her main screen. Red dots showed the locations of captured alien cadets. Blue dots showed human teams moving into position. Green dots marked hidden weapon caches and communication nodes. Everything was ready. The aliens had made Earth into a school of war. But they had forgotten the most important lesson of any school. Sometimes the students become better than the teachers. "All teams, this is command," Sarah announced over the communication network. "The first test is complete. Prepare for graduation day." Across the planet, humans who had spent years being hunted were about to become the hunters. The aliens had wanted to train warriors on Earth. They were about to learn that they had succeeded beyond their wildest nightmares. High Admiral Krexenith stood in the war room of the Galactic Council and stared at the report that had just arrived from Earth. 12 cadets missing. An entire training battalion gone without a trace. Training Vessel 7 requesting immediate military support. "This is impossible," he said to the assembled council members. "Earth is a Class 9 primitive world. The humans barely have metal tools." Council member Yuthrun, whose people had been using Earth for training for over 300 cycles, shook his head in disbelief. "Commander Zethkar must be mistaken. Perhaps the cadets encountered some natural disaster, storms, earthquakes. The planet is known for such things." But Admiral Krexenith had read the energy signatures in the report. Plasma weapons, explosions, coordinated attacks. This was not the work of natural disasters. This was combat, real combat. "I want a full investigation team sent to Earth immediately," he ordered. "If something has happened to our cadets, we need to know what." The investigation team consisted of 30 experienced soldiers from 5 different species. They carried the best weapons and armor the Council could provide. They had fought in real wars against civilized enemies. handling whatever primitive threat had emerged on Earth should be simple. Captain Vorthak led the team down to the planet's surface. He had 20 years of combat experience and had never lost a soldier under his command. As his transport ship entered Earth's atmosphere, he felt confident that this would be a routine mission. His ship landed in what the humans called North America, the area where 3 of the missing cadets had last been detected. His team spread out in standard search formation, using advanced scanners to look for any trace of the missing soldiers. What they found made no sense. The first discovery was a crater, where one of the landing pods should have been. But the crater was too big, too deep. Something had excavated the area with military precision. The edges were smooth, cut by energy tools, professional salvage work. "Sir," called Sergeant Nextel from across the clearing. "You need to see this." Vorthak walked over to where his sergeant was kneeling. In the dirt was a boot print from a hegemony military boot, but around it were dozens of other prints, smaller, different patterns. And leading away from the site were tracks from vehicles that did not match anything in their database of primitive Earth technology. "The humans took them," Nextel said quietly. "But how?" Before Vorthak could answer, the forest around them exploded into action. Trees that had seemed empty suddenly revealed hidden positions. Rocks that looked natural opened to show weapon ports. The ground itself seemed to come alive as camouflaged. Humans emerged from concealed fighting positions. The investigation team found themselves surrounded by enemies they had never seen coming. Humans wearing armor made from salvaged alien materials. Humans carrying weapons that should not exist on this world. Humans who moved with the coordination of trained soldiers. "Contact!" Vorthak shouted into his radio. "We are under attack." "By hostiles. Repeat, we are under attack." But his radio was dead. Jammed by technology he recognized as Council Standard Communication Scramblers. The humans had not just stolen alien equipment. They had learned to use it better than the aliens themselves. The battle was unlike anything Vorthak had ever experienced. His team had superior firepower and better armor, but the humans fought like nothing he had ever faced. They did not follow civilized rules of warfare. They did not worry about collateral damage or proper military protocol. They fought like cornered animals with the intelligence of tactical geniuses. When Corporal Zexian took cover behind a tree, the humans did not try to flank him or wait him out. They simply brought down the entire tree with explosives. When Private Colmer tried to establish a defensive position, the humans attacked from underground through tunnels they had prepared years in advance. Most shocking of all, the humans seemed to know exactly how Council weapons worked. They knew where the power cells were located. They knew which armor plates were weakest. They fought as if they had been studying alien technology for decades, because they had. "Fall back to the landing zone," Vorthak ordered. But when his team reached where their ship had landed, they found it surrounded by humans with heavy weapons. Anti-aircraft missiles that looked like they had been built from scrapped alien fighters. Energy cannons that could punch through. Military-grade hull plating. The humans had not just been waiting for the investigation team. They had been waiting for years. Maria Santos emerged from the human ranks. She wore armor pieces from 6 different alien species, all modified to work together. Her weapon was something that Vorthak had never seen before, a rifle that seemed to combine energy projection with solid projectiles. "Captain Vorthak," she said in perfect Council standard, "your people made this personal a long time ago." Vorthak stared at her in shock. Not just because she knew his name and rank, but because of her eyes. These were not the eyes of a primitive savage. These were the eyes of a professional soldier who had seen too much war. "You're just animals," he said, trying to maintain his composure. "Primitive creatures on a backwater world." Maria smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That's what your people told your cadets before we captured them. That's what you told your investigation team before we surrounded them. How's that working? Out for you?" Around the landing zone, more humans appeared. Hundreds of them, all armed with weapons that should not exist. All moving with military precision that primitives should not possess. "You see, Captain," Maria continued, Your people have been using our world as a training ground for 300 years. Did you think we weren't paying attention? She gestured to her weapon. This rifle? Built from parts of 20 different alien systems. The power cell comes from a hegemony fighter that crashed in Russia in 2847. The targeting system is from a council scout ship that went down in Australia. The projectile chamber is human design because sometimes the old ways work best. Vorthak felt fear creeping into his mind, real fear. What do you want? What we want, Maria said, is for the galaxy to understand something. Earth was never your training world. Earth was our school. And class is now in session. The humans did not kill the investigation team. That would have been too simple. Instead, they did something much worse. They demonstrated exactly how much they had learned. They disabled the alien weapons with techniques that showed intimate knowledge of their construction. They bypassed the alien armor using tactics that revealed years of study. They captured the entire team without losing a single human soldier, but the real message was not in what they did to the investigation team. The real message was in what they had prepared for what came next. As Captain Vorthak and his soldiers were led away in restraints made from their own equipment, Maria activated a communication device that had been built from salvaged alien parts. This is Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Network, she said into the device. We are transmitting on all Council military frequencies. We have your cadets, we have your investigation team, and we have a message for the Galactic Council. The transmission reached every Council ship within 100 light years, every military base, every government facility. For the first time in centuries, the primitive world called Earth was speaking directly to the galaxy. For 300 years, you have used our world as a training ground. You have hunted our people for sport. You have treated us like dangerous animals to be overcome by your young soldiers. Today that ends. On Council worlds across the galaxy, military leaders stopped what they were doing to listen. The transmission was coming from Earth, but the technology behind it was clearly advanced. Council level advanced. We are not your training dummies. We are not your target practice. We are the people you have been accidentally training to destroy you. Every hunt taught us your weaknesses. Every invasion showed us your tactics. Every dead human made the survivors more determined to learn everything you could teach us. Admiral Krexenoth listened to the transmission from his flagship and felt something he had never experienced before. The galaxy's most powerful military force was being lectured by primitives from a backwater planet. And those primitives clearly had the technology to make their threats real. You wanted to train warriors on Earth, Maria's voice continued. Congratulations, you succeeded. But the warriors you trained were not your cadets. The warriors you trained were us, and now your students are ready to graduate. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. On Earth, Sarah Chun watched the global response to their message. Council fleets were moving. Military bases were going to high alert. Emergency sessions were being called on every major world. They're taking the bait, she reported to her command team. The humans had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. They had studied every aspect of Council military doctrine. They knew how the aliens would respond to a direct challenge. They knew the aliens would send a massive force to crush the uppity primitives. The aliens were about to learn the difference between hunting scattered humans for sport and fighting humans who had unified for war. Earth had never been their training world. Earth had been their biggest mistake. The Galactic Council fleet that approached Earth was the largest military force assembled in over 1,000 years. 200 warships from 12 different species. Enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Enough soldiers to conquer a star. System. Fleet Admiral Tussara stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought, Eternal Dominion, and watched Earth grow larger on the viewscreen. The primitive blue world looked so peaceful from space. It was hard to believe that such a small, backward planet could threaten the galactic order. All ships report ready for orbital bombardment, announced his tactical officer. We can begin sterilization procedures on your command. Tisara considered the option. It would be simple to burn the planet's surface clean and be done with this embarrassment. But the Council wanted to understand how primitives had obtained advanced technology. They wanted prisoners for questioning. They wanted to know if other primitive worlds posed similar threats. Negative, he replied. We conduct a full invasion. I want every human settlement mapped and secured. I want their leaders captured alive. And I want to know where they got Council-level technology. What the Admiral did not know was that human satellites had been tracking his fleet since it entered the solar system. Sarah Shen and her command team had been watching the alien approach. For 3 days, 200 ships, reported Anna Kim from her sensor station, just like our models predicted. The humans had spent years studying Council military doctrine. They knew how the aliens would respond to a direct threat. Overwhelming. Force applied without subtlety. It was the same pattern they had used for centuries when dealing with primitive rebellions. But Earth was not a primitive rebellion. Earth was a trap that had been 15 years in the making. Begin Phase 3, Sarah ordered, across the planet. Hidden installations came to life. Power systems that had been built from salvaged alien technology began charging weapons that should not have existed on a primitive world. Communication networks activated that could reach every human. Resistance cell on Earth. The first surprise came when the alien fleet tried to establish orbital supremacy. Council doctrine called for destroying any primitive spacecraft and taking control of the planet's orbital space. But when their sensors swept the area around Earth, they found something impossible. Ships, human ships, built from salvaged alien technology and hidden in the asteroid belt and behind Earth's moon. Not many ships, but enough to make the aliens. Pause, Admiral, called his sensor operator. I'm detecting 43 vessels of unknown configuration. They appear to be using modified Council propulsion systems. Tisara stared at the tactical display. The ships were clearly built from alien technology, but they had been modified in ways that made no sense. Weapon systems that combined energy projection with kinetic bombardment. Shield generators that seemed to layer multiple defensive technologies. Together, how is this possible? He muttered. The answer came from Jake Morrison, who was commanding the human fleet from a ship built around the hull of a crashed Council cruiser. His vessel looked like a patchwork of different alien technologies held together with human engineering, because that was exactly what it was. This is Jake Morrison of Earth Defense Command, he transmitted to the alien fleet. You are inhuman. Space, turn around and leave, or we will remove you. Admiral Tisara almost laughed. 43 primitive ships against 200 Council warships. It was not even a fair fight. Destroy them, he ordered. The battle that followed was unlike anything in Council military history. The human ships did not fight like civilized opponents. They did not form proper battle lines or follow accepted tactical doctrine. They fought like pirates, guerrillas, and madmen all at the same time. Jake's ship used its kinetic weapons to hurl asteroids at the alien fleet while its energy. Weapons targeted specific weak points in Council ship designs. Weak points that humans had identified through decades of studying wreckage and salvaged equipment. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded a vessel that had been built specifically to fight Council dreadnoughts. Her ship was fast and small, designed to get close to large targets. When she reached the Eternal Dominion, she did not try to engage it in a traditional weapons duel. Instead, she rammed her ship into the dreadnought's main weapon array. The explosion took out both vessels, but it also disabled the most powerful ship in the alien fleet. Elena and her crew had known it was a suicide mission when they launched. They had volunteered anyway, because some things were more important than survival. Other human ships used tactics that made no sense to civilized minds. They targeted life. Support systems instead of weapons. They rammed damaged alien vessels to finish them off. They sacrificed themselves to create openings for other human ships. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly how Council ships were built. They targeted power conduits that were supposed to be hidden. They exploited weaknesses in ship designs that were classified military secrets. They fought as if they had blueprints for every vessel in the fleet, because they did, after 3 hours of combat, Admiral Tisara was forced to withdraw his fleet to a safer distance. He had lost 30 ships to an enemy that should not have been able to damage one. His flagship was badly damaged. His confidence was shattered. "How?" he asked his tactical officer. "How do primitives fight like this?" The answer came when human boarding parties began appearing on his remaining ships. The humans did not use traditional boarding techniques. They did not blast holes in ship hulls or fight their way through corridors. They used maintenance shafts, service tunnels, and cargo bays. They moved through the ships like they knew the designs better than the crews. Maria Santos led one of these boarding parties onto a council battle cruiser. Her team moved through the ship's ventilation system using maps they had created from studying salvaged vessels. They knew where the crew quarters were located. They knew where the main computer core was housed. They knew which corridors would be defended and which would be empty when they reached the bridge. They did not burst through the main doors in a dramatic assault. They came through a maintenance hatch in the ceiling that the ship's crew had forgotten existed. The aliens on the bridge found themselves facing humans who carried weapons designed specifically to work in ship corridors. Short-range energy projectors that could disable alien armor, stun weapons that worked on alien nervous systems, restraints that fit alien physiology. "Surprise," Maria said as her team secured the bridge. "Class is still in session." Ship after ship fell to human boarding parties. The aliens had superior numbers and better equipment, but the humans had something more valuable. They had knowledge. They knew their enemy better than their enemy knew them, but the real shock came when the human boarding parties began taking control of alien systems. Not just disabling them, but operating them, flying the ships, using the weapons, coordinating fleet movements. The humans had not just studied alien technology. They had mastered it. Admiral Tisara watched his fleet dissolve around him as ship after ship was captured by boarding parties. The primitives were not just defeating his forces, they were stealing them. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface." Sarah Chun's face appeared on the view screen. She was transmitting from the hidden command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Behind her, displays showed the status of the battle raging in orbit. "Admiral Tisara," she said calmly, "you have two choices. Surrender your remaining ships and crews, or watch us demonstrate what we learned from 3 centuries of being hunted by your people." Tisara tried to maintain his dignity. "You are primitives. Animals. You cannot threaten the Galactic Council." Sarah smiled, but her eyes remained cold. "We already are threatening the Council. Your fleet is captured or destroyed. Your people are prisoners on ships they thought were invincible. And this is just the beginning." She gestured to something off-screen. "You see, Admiral, while you were busy underestimating us, we were busy learning from you. Every ship you sent to our system, every weapon you used against us, every tactical manual we salvaged from your wrecks, we studied it all." The display behind her changed to show a star map. Red dots marked Council military bases. Blue lines showed shipping routes. Green markers indicated resource worlds. "We know where your bases are located. We know your supply lines. We know which worlds are defended and which are vulnerable. Most importantly, we know that your people have become soft and civilized. You have forgotten how to fight a real war." Tisara felt ice in his veins. The primitives were not just threatening his fleet. They were threatening the entire Council space. "You wanted to train warriors on Earth," Sarah continued. "You succeeded. Beyond your wildest nightmares. The warriors you trained were us. And now we are ready to show the galaxy what we learned." On the tactical display, Tisara could see his fleet status. Of 200 ships, only 50 remained under Council control. The rest had been captured or destroyed by an enemy that had numbered less than 50 vessels at the start of the battle. It was not just a defeat. It was a military disaster that would echo across the galaxy. "This is your final warning, Admiral," Sarah said. "Leave our system now with what ships you have left. Spread the word that Earth is no longer 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Sarah Shun stood on the bridge of the captured dreadnought that humans now called Freedom's Edge, through the viewscreen. She could see the Galactic Council's capital world growing larger as they approached. The massive ship had been the pride of the Council fleet. Now it flew under human command, with a crew that included both humans and alien prisoners who had chosen to join the new order rather than face the consequences of their people's actions. "Admiral Chun," called Marcus Torres from the tactical station. The humans had given themselves military ranks that matched their new responsibilities. "The Council is requesting permission to speak with us." Sarah smiled at the title, Admiral. It had a nice sound to it. 6 months ago, she had been a scientist hiding in underground bunkers. Now she commanded a fleet of captured alien warships and spoke for humanity on the galactic stage. "Put them through," she ordered. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Council Prime Nexus Kalthara, the highest authority in galactic government. The alien looked tired, defeated, older than when Sarah had first seen him in captured council records. "Dr. Chun," he began, then stopped and corrected himself. "Admiral Chun, we are prepared to discuss terms." The galaxy had changed dramatically in the months since Earth's victory. News of the Council fleet's defeat had spread to every world in known space. Primitive planets had begun asking questions about their treatment. Plant species had started demanding better conditions. Some worlds had declared independence entirely, but more importantly, other species had begun reaching out to Earth, not as conquerors or masters, but as potential allies who respected human strength. "The terms are simple," Sarah replied. "Complete withdrawal of all Council forces from systems that wish independence. Reparations to worlds that have suffered under Council exploitation. And recognition of Earth as a sovereign power with the right to protect other developing worlds." Nexus. Kolthara's expression showed pain at each demand. The Council had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years. They had never been forced to negotiate with primitives before. "Your demands would destroy the galactic order," he protested. "Without Council authority, there will be chaos. Wars between species, economic collapse." Sarah leaned forward in her command chair. "The galactic order you're talking about was built on the exploitation of weaker species. It was maintained by using worlds like Earth as training grounds for your military. That order needed to be destroyed." Behind her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Humans and aliens working together, but under human leadership. It was a pattern that had emerged across the captured fleet. The aliens who chose to stay had quickly learned that humans valued competence over species loyalty. Jake Morrison appeared on a secondary screen from his position commanding the human fleet patrolling Council space. His ship, built from salvaged alien technology and human innovation, had become the flagship of a new type of warfare that the galaxy was still trying to understand. "Admiral," he reported, "we've received surrender requests from 12 more Council outposts. They're requesting protection under Earth authority." It had become a common occurrence. Council installations that found themselves cut off from support would rather surrender to humans than face rebellion from the species they had been oppressing. The humans had gained a reputation for being strict but fair with surrendered enemies. "Accept their surrender," Sarah ordered. "Standard terms: full disarmament, cooperation with local populations, and integration into the new defensive network." The new defensive network was Sarah's masterpiece. Using captured Council technology and human organizational skills, Earth had created a system that protected developing worlds from exploitation. Former Council training grounds had become fortress worlds defended by species that had learned to fight back. Maria Santos commanded one of these fortress worlds, the planet the Council had called Zarian 7. The natives had been used as living obstacles for Council training exercises for centuries. Now they worked alongside human advisors to build their own defenses and govern their own world. "The irony is perfect," Maria had told Sarah during their last communication. "The Council spent so much time teaching their cadets to fight against guerrilla opponents that they accidentally created the best guerrilla fighters in the galaxy. Every species they used for training learned the same lessons we did. Nexus Kalthara's voice brought Sarah's attention back to the negotiation. Even if we agree to your terms, how can you enforce them? You have perhaps 200 ships. We have thousands. Sarah laughed, and the sound made the alien flinch. Prime Nexus, you still don't understand what happened to you. This isn't about numbers. This isn't about technology. This is about the fact that you taught your enemies how to fight better than you can. She gestured to a display that showed the current state of Council space. Red zones marked areas where rebellions were ongoing. Yellow zones showed systems that had declared independence. Green zones indicated regions now under Earth protection. Your thousands of ships are scattered across the galaxy, trying to hold together an empire that's falling apart. Half your crews are afraid to fight because they've heard what happened to your fleet at Earth. The other half are questioning whether they're fighting for the right side. It was true. Reports came in daily of Council ships surrendering without a fight, defecting to join independent systems, or simply abandoning their posts. The myth of Council invincibility had been shattered, and with it the fear that had held the Galactic Order together. Meanwhile, Sarah continued, every day brings us new allies. Species that were oppressed by the Council. Worlds that were used as training grounds. Independent traders who prefer our protection to your taxes. We're not just building a fleet, we're building a coalition. Anakim signaled from her communications station. Admiral, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. The image that appeared showed Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who had remained on Earth to coordinate the planet's transformation into the center of the new galactic order. Behind her, Sarah could see construction that would have been impossible a year ago. Shipyards built with alien technology. Research facilities where human and alien scientists worked together. Training academies where former enemies learned to cooperate. Sarah, Yuki reported, the Andromedan Trade Federation has agreed to our Mutual Defense Pact. That brings our coalition up to 47 species and 86 worlds. Sarah nodded. The Andromedans were an advanced civilization that had remained neutral during the Council's reign of power. Their decision to ally with Earth was a major diplomatic victory that showed the galaxy was taking humanity seriously. Also, Yuki continued, we've received formal requests for protection from another 16 developing worlds. They're offering resource agreements in exchange for defensive support. Nexus Kalthara watched this exchange with growing despair. He could see the future taking shape before his eyes. The Council's empire of exploitation was being replaced by Earth's network of mutual protection. Species that had been victims were becoming partners. This is madness, he said quietly. You cannot govern a galaxy. You are one species from one world. Sarah turned back to him with a patient expression. Prime Nexus, we're not trying to govern the galaxy. We're trying to protect it from people like you. There's a difference. She stood up from her command chair and walked closer to the view screen. The Council's mistake was thinking that ruling meant controlling. We understand that ruling means serving. Every species under our protection keeps their own government, their own culture, their own way of life. We just make sure nobody else tries to exploit them. The final nail in the Council's coffin came when Elena Rodriguez contacted them from the captured Council research facility she now commanded. Her team had been analyzing centuries of Council records, and what they had found was damning. Admiral, Elena reported, we've compiled the complete records of Council training programs. 312 worlds used as training grounds. Over 40 billion sentient beings killed or displaced for military exercises, and that's just the official numbers. Sarah had expected the numbers to be large, but hearing them stated so clearly still made her angry. 40 billion lives lost, so that alien cadets could learn to hunt and kill. Broadcast those numbers to every world in Council space, she ordered. Let everyone see what they were really part of. The effect was immediate and devastating. Council worlds that had supported the training programs because they didn't understand the scope suddenly found themselves facing internal rebellion. Client. Species that had provided troops for the exercises turned against their former masters. Even loyal council citizens began questioning the morality of their government. Within weeks, the Galactic Council ceased to exist as a functional government. Some worlds tried to maintain independence. Others asked to join Earth's growing coalition. A few attempted to restart the old system of exploitation, only to find human fleets arriving to protect their intended victims. Prime. Nexus Kalthara made one final attempt to salvage something from the collapse. If you destroy the Council completely, there will be chaos, pirates, warlords, economic collapse. Sarah considered this seriously. It was a valid concern. The galaxy needed some form of organization to maintain trade.